Hi and welcome to JJ's Productions. We're here with another Stoke City Vlogcast previewing the Blackburn Rovers game. With me as always is Jan. How are you doing?
I'm alright, thanks. Hi folks, hope you're all okay.
So we've just come off the win against Swansea and we're very pleased with that result. I'm going to say, I'll admit I forgot it was on tally. I had a complete mare on Tuesday evening. I'm going to say I'm glad that you remembered.
Yeah, and it's a match I thoroughly enjoyed. I thought we took a while to get going as usual, but once we got in the stride we did okay.
I think there was a clear contrast between the two teams in the opening 20 or so minutes where I think Swansea came with a game plan, and I'm not saying we didn't have a plan, but I think we didn't adapt to their game plan that well. I think we were just a bit too slow to get going, but I think once we did get going, we were actually the better team in the end. So I'm glad we got the win. I think the best thing I can actually say about the win is, by the end, I wasn't too worried about them getting a goal. I was thinking we actually looked quite assured. You know, there's the natural concern about conceding, that you will always have at 1-0. But I didn't actually feel like a goal was going to happen, which I did the previous week with the previous game against Sheffield Wednesday.
No, I did.
Yeah.
I was on pins right until the end, and I thought, please don't let us down again.
Yeah.
And especially with what's his name? The big guy.
Oh, Ollie McBurney.
That's him.
Yeah. When he came on, he did look a handful.
Yeah. And in them last few minutes, I thought, he's going to score. I know he's going to score.
Okay, now, I'm just interrupting a second, right, because I just want to bring up Gary Rowett's criticism of the supporters' criticism of the slow build-up, shall we call it, that a few fans at the game on Tuesday were complaining about slow methodical passing and not really going anywhere. And in the gameplay, I did try to illustrate a point that I think was being made, that, as you can see on the screen, I was essentially trying to imitate how I felt at times Stoke were passing around at the back. It wasn't necessarily with any purpose. You know, it's like you could, for example, get the ball to Martina and for some reason he'd pass back or sideways, even if there was a forward option. Now, I'm not against keeping possession, and I can't ever criticise Stoke for wanting to try that. What my criticism at the time, and why if I was at the stadium I would have actually been really getting my air off at that type of possession, is the fact that it was going nowhere. There wasn't like a picture in front of them that they were just trying to build towards.
But what have I always said? They come out and they have to warm up, but Stoke need that extra 15 minutes when they first come on the pitch to warm up. It's as if they haven't had the warm-up and the first 15 minutes is actually their warm-up.
I mean, just on paper it is so strange to witness, because it's like I say, I can forgive a team wanting play out from the back, and maybe if there isn't an easy forward pass they will pass backwards. But in those opening 20 or so minutes there were a few times when, for instance Shawcross, you know, I could see a ball out wide, or, you know, maybe he can't see it on the pitch. I can't blame him if that's the case, obviously. But just watching it on the TV, you can't help but look and think, surely there was a better ball than what you actually played. And I'm using Shawcross as an example there, but like I've said, Martina, Allen, there were just a few instances where I think easy balls were chosen instead of balls that would have actually got us forward and taken the pressure off us, especially when Swansea were on top.
Yeah, I don't know whether it was Joe being a bit sentimental or whatever, but he had a very slow start. I was actually thinking, should they take him off? I don't know what it was with him.
I think he grew into the game. I think the goal actually helped him.
Yeah, yes.
The actual performance, it wasn't that good to begin with. And in fact, there was a point in that first half where, if I remember right, he lost the ball, recovered it well, and then got a chance for a phobie straight off it. So it sort of summed up his game, you know, a bit of a mishap that he actually turned him around. So hopefully that can be a big turnaround for him. But it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was his greatest game despite the goal.
Yeah. Well, I just want to read something that we had a comment on, and it was from Pugster Josh. I just want you to listen to it and maybe comment on what you think about what he said. He says he's very frustrated to be a Stoke supporter right now. Wish we could go back to the successful Premier League days when we were beating Chelsea and all of them. Now, I know how I feel about it. I think Stoke have had a bit of a shock coming to the Premiership and the style of play in the Premiership, and I think it's a different style of play.
Just checking, do you mean the Championship?
I'm sorry, I was reading Josh's comment again. But yeah, I think they had a culture shock being in the Championship, and I think it has rocked them a bit.
I think as well, I understand where Pugster was coming from in the sense that, you know, I got into football just before we came into the Premier League, and it is a bit of a strange thing for me going back to the Championship. It's part of the reason I'm enjoying it. But I've got to admit, I think having been in the Premier League, there's an element in my own feeling as a supporter that we should do better, just for the fact that we were better, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
You know, there was a little joke the other day that we seem to only be able to beat Swansea and Huddersfield at the moment. The rest of the Premier League and Championship teams seem to have bogeys around us. And I think that's a hurdle we need to overcome this weekend.
Well, I think so. I mean, Blackburn, I used to like Blackburn, to be honest. You know, I thought they were a right good team, but I don't know enough about them at the moment. Because I've never watched Championship, I only watched Premier League when we were in there. That's all I was interested in. So, you know, Blackburn at the moment is new to me.
It's strange on my end because growing up with sort of like the start of Stoke in the Premier League, I sort of associate Blackburn with the Premier League. You know, it's a bit similar to how, say, supporters from, say, the 80s would associate Leeds as a Premier League team. You know, for me, Blackburn were always a team to look at. You know, maybe not necessarily up there, but they were certainly steady enough until the Venky's came and it all went downhill. So I've got to admit, it was a surprise, well, not a surprise, but it was a shame to see them go down the footballing ladder. But it's actually quite nice as well to see them steadily rising again, because as a club, they might not be the biggest in terms of, like, say, the Man Uniteds and all that lot, but for me, if they got promoted to the Premier League again at any point, I don't think people could say, oh, they're little old Blackburn. You know, I think it would be unfair on them.
Well, unless I'm mistaken, weren't they the first Premier League Championship?
Exactly.
You know, they won it, didn't they, in 92?
Was it
93?
I can't remember if it was SAS. They had this strike force, Shearer, Sutton, or was it Shearer and Sutton? I can't remember, but yeah, that's how I remember it. And you know, when you think that Leicester won it recently and all the big furore around that, I can't believe what would have happened if it had been Blackburn in this era. You know, because
well, when we get promoted at the end of the season, I hope Blackburn are with us.
I wouldn't be against that, you know. Again, they seem a nice enough club. Granted, I've never enjoyed visits to Ewood Park as a supporter in the sense of I've always found it a tough ground to get a result at. But I've got nothing against the club itself, which I think is a good compliment in that, you know, as much as I wouldn't look forward to the fixture, I wouldn't mind going to Ewood Park and seeing their supporters.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, here are my stats for this week. Blackburn have won 2, drawn 5 and lost 1. They're 14th in the league with 11 points. Stoke have won 2, drawn 3 and lost 3. We're in 17th position with 9 points. Their two top scorers are Dack and Mulgrew with 2 goals each. And like Stoke, they're still in the League Cup. They play next Bournemouth. And Stoke have obviously got Nottingham Forest away, so I'm putting Blackburn that they can beat Bournemouth. I think they're good enough.
Well, in the Cups, Bournemouth do tend to make changes, and the way I see it is, if any EFL team wants to try and take a scalp, Bournemouth are usually a good side to go for. So I would actually back Blackburn in this one if they put a strong enough side out.
Yeah, I definitely do back them. And I think that Stoke will go extra time with Nottingham Forest.
Well, let's see on that one, because we've got another couple of days to think about that. But as for this game in particular, I'm actually quite interested to see how Blackburn set up, because I mean, I don't think you'll remember it too much, but when I first got into football again, I remember West Brom for Tony Mowbray, the current Blackburn manager, and he was very... He had a West Brom team that was nicknamed like a Brazil team of the Championship because they played such free-flowing football. Yet when they got to the Premier League, they were absolutely naff. And I can't help but wonder what his Blackburn team are like, because the players he's got, no disrespect to him, but I don't see them of that sort of ilk. You know, I don't think they are like a Brazil of the EFL. It makes me wonder if Mowbray's evolved as a manager, if he's maybe become a little bit more tactically astute or defensively astute, because I'm looking at the stats you've said. You know, they've won 2, drawn 5. He's at least learned how to not concede, well, you know, concede chances that he can't score. So,
aren't they one of the few teams that have beat Brentford, though?
Yeah, they have beat Brentford. The only team to have beaten them this season are Bristol City. So they have had some really good results considering that they're 8 games in, like ourselves. I'm very curious to see where they will end up, because you've got themselves, Wigan and Rotherham who came up. I mean, both Blackburn and Wigan have got a fair shout of staying up quite comfortably. I think I'm going to get onto Rotherham when we play them, but I think them two in particular will be quite comfortable by the end. I'm going to say, so I am curious to see if it's down to how Mowbray has evolved as a manager.
Yeah, I can't wait to, well, unfortunately hear how they play. You know, again, I'm sorry, I won't be there. But I am excited for the match.
Yeah, I mean, we can only keep saying that, because it is a case of every match we get excited for, even when it's like we've just come off that West Brom game a few weeks back and you've got the international break, you're looking forward to the match even though you're coming off a bad result. It's usually more when silly comments are made. You know, that's usually what brings negativity in my mind, that I get drawn in by these silly headlines, silly comments, and you think just keep it calm and just don't antagonise the supporters, which Stoke tend not to do.
Well, you tweet a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I get quite involved on Twitter, and sometimes that might not be the best thing.
Yeah, whereas I stay away from things like that because I get in trouble, basically.
Well, you like to think that, I suppose. I mean, one of the benefits that I've found of being on Twitter is that sometimes you'll enter into conversations where there are interesting points of view. I mean, for instance, by accident in some ways, I ended upon a discussion where I was trying to point out that despite the fact that we are at 20th in the league right now, we are only 9 points off the leaders. You know, and you think to yourself, yes, that is still a long distance in some ways, but with the Christmas period coming up where there are games pretty much every couple of days, you could think, could Leeds, who are currently at the top, maintain their form over that period? You know, I can't help but look and think, we would need to strengthen our squad ourselves, you know, but would we be able to actually catch them up?
I don't see why not. We've got used to playing again now.
I mean, it's a long season, and I agree with what the person in this thread actually said, that it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and we are only 8 games in. Yet, I can't help but think to myself, where are we now, and where could we be? You know, and it's all about what sort of runs of form you could go on. I think the key to a good run of form right now will be Ryan Woods, and I have to state what I've previously stated, that I don't believe that any player can be vital, in the sense that I think there was an overreaction to Woods' arrival, in that he was sort of lauded like a messiah. You've even got Ryan Shawcross coming out in the press and saying he's the one player we've needed to replace Glenn Whelan. So it is a lot of pressure on the lad, but not only that, if he picks up an injury or a suspension, then how do we cope without him? So the point I'm making here is, if we were to go on a good run, that could potentially keep us near to the top of the table come the Christmas period or even after, Woods is going to be vital, isn't he?
Yeah. I thought he played well on Tuesday. I really did. I think he earned the Sky Man of the match. how he played, but he's one of 11.
Yeah.
And everybody mucked in.
The way I see it myself is that we've got a system at the moment, a 4-3-3, and he's quite adept at playing just in front of the back four, so that in the current shape Allen and Etebo can push on. But supposing we want to play more of an orthodox 4-4-2, he can sit deep with someone else like Allen or Etebo or whoever, and we can trust him to sort of keep the midfield tight in front of the back four. So I think he's a very crucial part to the team. Like I say though, my concern is what happens if he picks up an injury, because, you know, like you say, he's just one man, but he seems to be an important man based on his first 2 games.
Well, that's it. He's done his job, and we'll just have to hope he doesn't get injured or play so much that he's worn out. You know, we've used him too much and wanted him to do too much. That's the only thing that's what we tend to do. Once we've got a good player, we make him slog it.
Yeah, I think that happened with Whelan by the end. I get the feeling he went to Aston Villa with his tail between his legs, in the sense that he was that tired from being the workhorse for that many years that he essentially just wanted to go to a different club and have a different atmosphere around him. But yeah, I'm very curious how it'll go, because as you've said, we can't overuse him, but perhaps when Sam Clucas is fit, he's apparently nearing fitness, maybe he could be the second option, as it were, so that we could actually rotate a little bit more, rather than, as we are, it seems we're stuck with just those 3.
Well, I've just gained off the subject a little bit still with the match, but our Jack, I think this is the first week he hasn't had a nervous breakdown.
Well, I think he did, but I think it was more to do with the supporters being on his back.
But yeah. I'm saying with the defence.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the last few games, I honestly thought the lad was going to break down, how he was shouting at him. And he didn't this week, and that must give him confidence that his defenders are now up to scratch as much as he can be at the minute. I mean, we even had a smile off our Ryan. I mean,
yeah,
I haven't seen that for a long time.
That was worth the weight in gold, seeing Ryan smile, just for the fact that I think that his face has become attached to pain and agony. So to actually
and doom and gloom.
Exactly. So to actually see a smile on his face, it was worth it, to be honest.
Yep. It did show. He thought we'd had a good match. He thought he'd had a good match.
Yeah, I think like Alan, he improved as the game went on as well.
Yes, yeah. Well, at the end of the match, when Alan and
Ryan
Woods were being interviewed, that's the first time I've seen Joe smile.
It's been a while as well. I think a lot of them haven't smiled for a while. I think they've all recognised it hasn't been a cheery place due to certain situations.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to when I was working a happy job. You go in and you smile, you know, and that's how it is with football. You've got to be in a mindset that you're happy with doing the job you're doing, and then it'll all work out.
It begs the question, really, then, that supposing the majority of what we needed was already there at the start of the season, how come we didn't get at least a little bounce against Leeds? You know, I know that Gary Rowett said that this is now his team. He's got Ryan Woods in, he's brought a few more in, like Sam Clucas since then, Cuca Martina. But I look at that Leeds game and I think there's a very vast difference in performance level from then to now. I think even if there have been individual mistakes, but there's been the same level of intensity of performance, we could have actually forgiven it, but that was just terrible on that opening day.
My personal opinion, and I always say that, folks, because it is only my opinion, Stoke were expecting an easy ride, and they didn't get it. And I think that at Leeds, it shocked them. I think they thought they were going to come away with 3 goals.
Yeah.
And the tables were turned, and it didn't happen.
I do wonder if there was some complacency. I mean, I think maybe even Gary Rowett could be guilty of it, in the sense that he picked Badou and Dye that day. perhaps noting that he wasn't fully committed to the club, thinking maybe he'll be a professional and just play on. But it completely backfired on him.
Yes.
And, you know, it's little things like that where I'm just trying to work out exactly where the upturns will have started, because you hope that it has started with the result against Swansea. Well, that was the toughest game of the season for me in terms of two relegated teams.
I actually think the turnabout might have come at Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah.
They scored 2 goals. Okay, we didn't keep the lead, we ended in a draw, but I think that gave them that little bit of boost.
Yeah.
To score 2 away from home.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they brought that to the game on Tuesday.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think, because I'll admit I did ignore the West Brom game there, but that might just be because we lost it. But the way I see it is, you want to try and get points off those who you hope will be at the top of the table, and for me, Swansea were one of them. And when I saw this fixture in, like, the Sheffield Wednesday to along the next 6 fixtures, Swansea was one I thought we need to win this just to put a marker down. So, as glad as I was that we actually put in a good performance against Wednesday, I'm actually just glad we got a resilient performance against Swansea.
Swansea is the one I wanted to win more than anything. I don't know why, but that it's me bugbear that sometimes against Swansea we are a bit iffy.
I mean, I think it's more away from home I feel that. I mean, I was surprised that we won there on the last day of the season, even when we got nothing to play for. I thought that'd be a prime time for us to actually throw the game. So it was a surprise result, it's got to be said.
Yeah.
Speaking of results, what do you think of the Blackburn result?
My prediction?
Yeah. We're getting in early this week.
I'm going for 2-1 for Stoke.
Okay. I'll be honest, I'm hopeful. I'm thinking to myself that when Bristol City beat them, they got a few goals. And I'm hoping we can get a few as well. Just because I think if we can combine the early start that we had at Wednesday versus the defensive performance we had against Swansea, then hopefully if we can combine them 2 performances, which is a big ask, I recognise, then maybe we could get a 3-1. Just the idea of...
No, don't go mad. Don't go mad.
I won't go too mad, but I'm going to say I'll settle for that in the sense that if it's less, I'm certainly not complaining. I'll take 1-0 any week. But it's just a case of, I think to myself, we have got to try and assert ourselves in the league, and to do that, you do have to score goals. I mean, Tom Ince on Tuesday could have scored 2, maybe one I've missed as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, the way I see it is he's got to open his goal scoring account soon.
The only thing with Tom, sorry Josh, is I think sometimes he's a bit selfish. He could pass the ball, but he goes forward on his own.
Yeah, I think, I'll be honest, I think the game against Swansea was actually his best game, or at least the best game I've seen, for the simple reason he actually was able to find pockets of space inside. Whereas I think in other games he'd been stuck out wide too much and not really having an impact.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very old-fashioned, me, with my wording, and you'll have to excuse some of the words that I do use.
Don't forget, some people might actually prefer your wording.
Yeah, I mean, you know, forwards, the strikers to me, and always will be. And your central midfielders, is it?
Yeah.
You know, them are centre forwards to me.
Well, I was just going to say, wasn't it inside right to you?
Oh, yeah. None
or
of
outside
this,
right, I don't know.
all these fancy words you use now.
Oh,
Put it down to good old football.
Yeah, I'm going to say, the terminology's changed, but the way I see it is, the tactics are pretty much still the same, maybe just with certain differences. And I stand by my point that I think Tom found a good position against Swansea. I hope we can replicate it for him, because I think when Tom Ince looks dangerous in our team, the rest of the front line do, because whilst he's causing the opposition's defence a bit of panic, our other forwards are able to just do what they want.
No, you're going to have to excuse me, and I'm very, 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 very sorry for anybody who likes Mr. Juve, but he should not be playing. I've got nothing against him as a man. He just can't do anything.
for the record, if you've been listening to the vlogcasts in the past, I have defended Diouf, and even I said after the last game I didn't think he should start against Swansea. I think Gary Rowett actually agreed with that, or at least agreed he hadn't put a good enough level of performance in, and he dropped him against... he took him off in the second half, didn't he, against Swansea. So the way I lined up in this game is actually the way I'd line up, which is the way that I'd start with Saido just up front and Benick just behind him, probably on par with where Tom Ince will dip into. It might seem an unorthodox formation, but the way I see it, Afobe actually surprised me where he picked up space against Swansea in the last 20 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
So I would actually like to just see if that's possible to create something good again, and if not, I suppose there would always be alternatives where, I don't know, maybe Peter Etebo could go on the left wing and Tom Ince could go as an orthodox right winger. You know, there will be options, but
yeah.
I would like to see Berahino be the one to take Diouf's shirt.
Yeah. I mean, as I say, I've got nothing against him whatsoever, but he couldn't pass a ball, he couldn't cross a ball for save his soul. And I think if we had someone there who could put a good cross in, then feed it to Afobe, I think that's when we start getting goals.
I'm going to say that's got to be the hope. I mean, you don't want to just have an idea of throwing as many strikers on as possible and hopefully one of them will score.
No.
But equally, if you've got your threatening players on the bench, you're doing something wrong. So hopefully we can get Berahino in and hopefully he'll add to the goal threat.
Yeah, well, I hope so anyway. And all I can say is I hope you all enjoy the match on Saturday.
Aye, aye, and I'll be honest, we're going to call it a day here. We're going to wrap this up. What I would ask is, if you've enjoyed this, please leave a like on YouTube and consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. It is a mix of gaming content at the moment, but that might change in the near future, so just keep your eyes open as far as how the content diversifies. As far as these videos themselves, if you enjoyed them, could you please share them on whatever social media network you're on, so whether it be Facebook or Twitter, just find a way to get the video out there to share it to fellow Stoke supporters.
Yeah, we are enjoying doing this, and for those of you who listen, I hope you are enjoying it too.
So that's a wrap for this week, but thank you very much for watching. This has been Josh from JJ's Productions. Bye for now.
Okay, bye folks. Speak to you next week.